and I'm physically crying. And it was just this quiet, raw moment where I said out loud, I am not going back to that office. No one gets to use my family's basic needs as leverage against me. Hey, it's Janiece. I have been making videos about food preservation, cooking from scratch, building pantry systems, and I often get asked, what the heck is all of this about? How did you get into this? And so I want to share some context with you, especially because we have grown about 5x in the last 30 days on this channel. I'm so grateful. So I want to share my heart, share my story with you. As well, I think if you're here, probably something that I'm doing, my family is doing, resonates with you. And so I want you to know why this is the #1 priority in my family's life right now, outside of God and just like love and how we mature. I want us to go back to 2019. I was pregnant with my first child, and I had a really, really good career. I was a technologist, and over my career, I had worked my way up to being an executive at a multi-billion-dollar company. This is later in the story, but I was really killing it, at least on paper. Things were going very well. And towards the end of my pregnancy, I was not feeling great. My feet were so swollen, I could barely walk. And where I worked, the building had 3 towers. So where you parked in your garage, you had to go to that 3rd tower and then up to your desk. And it was about a 10-minute walk, and it left me so sick every single time I sat down. So I went to my boss. We had a great relationship. I felt like I was her #1 player on the team. And I said, hey, I just need to work from home for the last 2 weeks of my pregnancy because I cannot physically do this walk anymore. And we were already working from home 1 day a week. And so this was not a crazy ask. She said no. She said the company had a policy and that I wasn't going to be able to. And I remember calling my mom in the bathroom. And I was like, Mom, I am 9 months pregnant. I'm puking, my feet are swollen, I can barely make it to my desk, and they won't let me work from home for 10 days. And my mom, in her very usual calm fashion, she said, just trust God. And a week later, the world shut down. So I had my daughter right as COVID hit, literally in April. And at first, I thought it was going to be 2 weeks. All of us thought that. It was like, fine, cool, that's enough for me to have my baby, recover, I can go back to work because I was scared of losing my job. And then it became 30 days, and then longer. And then things started to just feel really tense. People were getting angry if you didn't comply with certain things. And I remember the moment that everything shifted for me. I told my boss that I was not going to get the thing. And she paused and she said, you may not have a choice with the way this thing is shaping up. And that made me very, very sick. Even just remembering it now makes me so angry because I don't believe in this concept that you never have a choice about anything. And I realized that I was probably going to lose my job at that moment because I was unwilling to comply as a breastfeeding mom. And my husband's job, it was also at risk. We both had reduced pay at the time, and there was even more talk about more egregious mandates coming down the pipeline. And so I'm holding this newborn in my arms, and it's in the prime of my career. And I'm watching a news anchor on TV saying that people who didn't comply maybe shouldn't have access to grocery stores. And I remember being also in the nursery later that night, and I'm holding my daughter, it was just me and her, and I'm physically crying. And it was just this quiet, raw moment where I said out loud, I am not going back to that office. I might lose my job. I might lose access to the grocery store if I don't comply. And having this little baby in my arms, I'm realizing that I don't actually have control over my most basic needs, or even my family's most basic needs. And that was my personal breaking point, because it actually wasn't fear. It was actually more anger. It was this echoing no in my chest, like, absolutely not. No one gets to use my family's basic needs as leverage against me. So I started freelancing and I launched Night Germany as a side thing. I was just trying to build some optionality in case my job fell through. And I needed something outside of the job market that was truly mine to own and drive. And as I started to pull on that thread, I realized how much deeper it went. It wasn't just about a job. It was, if I can't work, how do I pay my bills? If I can't access grocery stores, how do I eat? I don't actually own my water. I need permission from the city to access it. I don't know how to grow my own food. And I don't know how to cook from scratch very well in a way that people want to eat it. I don't know how to preserve anything that I actually do grow. And I started to understand the scale of what real self-sufficiency would actually mean for my family. So my husband and I, we set a target in 2030. We said, we want out by 2030. And when I say out, I mean out of the system of dependence, relying on things that can be taken away, out of systems where someone else controls whether or not my family can eat. I don't fully know what that meant. I didn't fully know what that meant at the time. I just knew that we had to start and figure it out. And at first I took more of a prepping mindset. I couldn't worry about 10 years from now. I had to start where I was. And in 2020, people were fighting in grocery stores, literally. So I said, okay, let me just prep for right now. I'd actually been prepping since 2018, so I wasn't totally new to it, but our family was growing, so I did need more. And I started to very aggressively build reserves. 1 year of food, 1 year of water supplies, and it wasn't hoarding. Definitely not hoarding a year's worth of water supplies. I just needed to know that I could access water and have the supplies to do that. And as I worked through all of this, I started to very clearly see a few pillars: food, water, health, energy, and security. And those became the foundation for how I even still today think about self-sufficiency. They're actually what my app, Provision Planner, is built on now. So we started working through these pillars one by one as a family. For food, I started cooking from scratch because I needed to know how to eat food as it comes from the earth, from God, and not a grocery shelf or a factory line. I started to bake bread, make yogurt, preserve, canning, water bath canning, pressure canning. I built a pantry system so we could actually rotate through months of supplies without waste. For water, I started learning about what's actually in our water, how to access it if the city system went down, and we eventually bought land in a remote area as a broader family so we could have our own water source, which we now have today. For energy, we moved into a house that has its own energy system. So we are not fully off-grid, but we are getting there. And for health, I started leaning into learning natural remedies, growing herbs, understanding what I would need if I couldn't just run to the pharmacy, especially because I have asthma. And for security, we have learned to protect what we have built. So it has been about 5 years since the moment in the nursery with my newborn. And when I look back at the progress that we've made, we can actually say we have our own water sources, multiple. We have multiple places that we can grow food. We have our own businesses. We have energy systems in our primary residence. And honestly, I'm amazed. But I think what I want you to understand is that I am not doing this because I am scared. I am doing this because I refuse to live in a world where my family's access to water, food, or shelter can be used as leverage for compliance. I watched how quickly things shifted in 2020, and I watched how people grabbed for control, and I'm not willing to just go back to a life as normal after that situation. I want my kids to grow up knowing that they have options. I want them to know how to feed themselves. I want them to know how to access water, how to live without needing permission from systems that can change overnight on them. That is what self-sufficiency actually means to me. It means maintaining the right to say no. It's optionality. It means freedom. If you are here watching this, I'm guessing that you feel something similar. Maybe you had your own moment in 2020, I think most of us did. Or maybe you're just tired and feeling like you don't have control. Or maybe you are looking at the world changing and you want to make sure that your family is okay no matter how any of this pans out. That is what I'm teaching on this channel: how to build food independence, how to preserve food, how to cook from scratch, how to set up systems so you are not dependent on grocery stores or supply chains or permission that can be revoked. Now, I'm not saying that you need to go off-grid or move to a homestead. I live in a suburban house. My kids are homeschooled, but we are not crunchy off-grid people living in the woods. I still love those people though. But you can build self-sufficiency right where you are. You just have to start. And that is what I'm here to help you do. So that is my story. That is why we are doing this as a family. And if you are ready to start building your own version of self-sufficiency and food independence, I hope that you stick around.